Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we are firmly in the middle of the Four Nations tournament. The tournament has been absolutely buzzing so far. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and we're going to get into quite a bit of that as the episode goes. But do we want to jump right in? Did you want to start with some of the? We got a little bit of NHL news still that is not as related to the Four Nations. Do we want to kick it off there?
Yeah, before we dive into all the Four Nations stuff, the majority of what this episode will be, yeah, I think it's best to we'll just kind of go through the little bits of NHL news that we got, as little bits here and there are still kind of slowly leaking out during the craziness of the Four Nations. But yeah, start anywhere on the list here of the few parts.
Yeah, we got the big news that everyone's been waiting for. Sam Steele for the Dallas Stars has been extended 2 years at 2.1 mil. I like this. Not a bad little extension there. Keep him around for 2 years after this year. Cheap. He's a good player for him.
Yeah, not much more to say. Good
Yeah,
contract for Steele, good for Dallas.
yeah. There's really nothing to say about it. It's especially with the cap going up. That's peanuts. You don't miss that money at all. But it sure is nice having him on your team. So nice move by Dallas there. We also got rumors of a couple of trades going on. Do you happen to know when the trade deadline is?
I do. It is 1, 2, 3 weeks from now, March 7th.
March 7th. There's been a lot of rumors heating up around the league, and there's a couple of decently big names being thrown around now. A lot of rumors of Jared McCann potentially being moved out of Seattle.
I don't
Brad
think
Martin.
he does,
I
though.
doubt it.
I think it's more, and this is going to sound crazy, it's more likely that Carolina trades Mikko Rantanen, I think, than, because there's obviously rumors of that if they can't get an extension done by then, that they could look to flip Rantanen. I think that's more likely than Jared McCann, just because the package a team would have to give up for Jared McCann, I think, would be so high that I don't think there's a team that would be willing to
Yeah.
to give up that, because for Jared McCann, he's a former 40 goal guy, a top 6 center, and he's making $5 million for the remainder of this year, and I believe the next 2 years after that. And with the cap going up, already a great contract, but an even greater contract. When you take into account the salary cap going up, you're talking about at least 2 first-round picks, or probably a first and a A-level prospect, basically a first and your best prospect you have in your system.
Yeah, either your best
and that's
prospect,
probably just to
or
get
if you're
Seattle
a rebuilding team,
engaged.
second best.
Yeah, and that's just to probably get Seattle engaged. Be like, okay, we could probably work with something in here. So I doubt it. Maybe in the off season, but I just think the price for him is just going to be too high, in my opinion. Me personally, but we're wrong all the time. So he'll probably get traded tomorrow for a package worse than JT Miller. I'll be like, oh shit. Well, there we go.
Yeah, and it's so hard to tell because they really don't need to move Jared McCann, but it would help them bottom out a little bit more. And they could, like you said, insane contract. The dude's 28, so he's not going to fall off, at least due to age, anytime soon. $5 million for the next 3 seasons, one of them being the back half of this season. That is such a great contract for a guy can produce in a top 6 capacity. And the term is just so good. That's a really enticing deal that I could see a lot of competing teams being like, oh really, 2 firsts and a something, or hell, 3 first rounders. If you're looking to compete now, this guy's going to help you compete right away and going into the future for a good bit, for at least 3 years. And if you extend him, he's still got a lot of tread on his tires. So I could see it working for both teams if a deal does end up happening.
Because the biggest comparison I can kind of find in recent years to deal like this Jared McCann one is it kind of in terms of the player and kind of the age. Obviously, McCann's a bit old, but it's honestly kind of the Timo Meier deal in New Jersey. The only difference really kind of being is Jared McCann's a center, which that does increase the value, and Timo Meyer was on an expiring deal. He was an RFA, but it was an expiring deal, whereas Jared McCann's locked up a bit more. So, New Jersey gave up at the time a third line winger, their best prospect defenseman, and a first. So you're having to look at the value bumped up a bit because again, McCann is on a good contract for a couple more years, and he is a center.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the wheels. But again, you're probably going up to. So yeah, I think like minimum is either 2 firsts or a first and a really really good prospect.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's one of those trades that I could definitely see being a win-win. I could see him going to a contender and winning a cup there, and like being a good piece for an already deep team. If a Toronto, if a Dallas, a Tampa Bay, I was gonna say Rangers. I guess I don't even know if they're in a playoff spot, but I mean, by the end of the season, probably the Rangers. Like, if one of those top
Carolina
teams,
even.
Carolina,
Like
somehow they've got a cap
they've still
space.
got so many assets, and I think they definitely need help in the center position more than anything. So they could
Yeah,
be a team as well. There's
I'm
lots of
trying.
teams that I think would be all over. Winnipeg could be a really big one. Again, I've been saying I said like 2 months ago that they need to bring in a top six center. 'Cause if I'm not mistaken, I still think Nemestikov is their second line center, and that is not that is not what you want going on a platform. He is, yeah, Nemestikov second line center.
That's
Um,
crazy.
if you bump Nemestikov down in your line, you throw Jared McCann in there, that makes your team that much better, like way better.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see because obviously, he's good for them, but they're not exactly a team poised to be good right now.
Hmm.
They're still going through a bit of a rebuild, a retool, whatever you want to call it. They've got all these young guys. They got Matty Beniers and they got Shane Wright, so they're looking to get better in the future. And if they can grab a ton of prospects or picks or whatever, that could be good for them and wherever Jared McCann goes.
Yeah, and as good as Jared McCann is long term, doesn't really fit in because you already have Matty Beniers, who again kind of on a downward slump right now, but I expect him to figure it out. Shane Wright is starting to really put it together. And they just drafted what's his name? He's a beast for Canada in the World Juniors. Berkeley Catton. So like
Yeah,
that's 3 centers right there that are all much younger than Jared McCann. Obviously, McCann is still at a great age for a team to acquire him at 28. But again, for Seattle, you got 3 younger centers that are kind of your drafted guys, right? So
yeah.
That's those are the guys you're going to be building around, and then with Jared McCann, you can get different pieces to build around that um, young foundation that you're kind of establishing. So
Yeah, and honestly, looking at Matty Benier's stats here, like I know a lot of people are pretty hard on him, but he's not having a terrible year. 31 points in 57 games. What's that going to get him to? Probably around 45 to 50 points on the year. Like
yeah, but for a second overall pick who's in his third full season,
I guess, but he's still
it's more so the
22. He
fact
went
that
in
like
right out, came into the league right away.
um kind of he went back for one more year at Michigan and then joined Seattle late in the season that year. I think it's more so that like his first full year was 57 points in 80 games and then it dropped down to 37 points in 77
Yeah,
and then he's kind of going to be around that probably 40 to 45ish mark. So it's just kind of like that he's not taking that next step. If anything, he's kind of
yeah,
taking a step back. And again,
I,
not that he's a bad player, but you're just kind of hoping that you start to get a little bit more production out of him.
yeah. But it's one of those things. I have no idea what it is about it, but the sophomore slump is so real, and I just don't understand how. But it happens to so many players. It's insane,
Hmm.
and he's looking like he's going to be better than last year, somewhere in between his first full year and his second year there. But I definitely expect he'll get better with age. He's still super young. How's Bedard doing? Is he okay?
Yeah, no,
49 points in
he's
55.
he's really gotten it going.
He's about on pace with last year, which I guess you could say is a sophomore slump because he's not improving, but at the same time, that neither is the team.
Yeah, exactly. Teams
If
may
any,
taking a little bit of a step, but really not much. So
yeah, the whole league is taking a step, so it's tough to gauge
yeah,
it. Um, but Jared McCann is not the only person that is looking at potentially being moved. There's been quite a few rumors of Brad Marchand being being traded. I have not heard any specific teams really being linked to it, like by a credible source, other than people just saying, "Oh, it would be fun to see him playing on this team or that team." But
yeah. His
uh,
name's just kind of out there, but it's not. Nothing's really advancing in that sense.
yeah, well, I'm just gonna say, do you think they move him? Do you think
I don't
they're
think so.
actually do you think they're actually even shopping him, or do you think this is kind of just
No,
hearsay?
I think more than anything, or maybe it's just like in a conversation. It's like if Boston's like, oh yeah, like if we know we're missing the playoffs, like by the trade deadline, we know we're out of it, we'd be open to it. But again, like we're kind of looking at Boston. It's like they're gonna do everything they can to try and get into the playoffs. It's like we've talked about before. They're not a franchise that throws in the towel and just says, all right,
Yeah, they're
we're
they're
done. Even
like
though I think they kind of should,
they're
but
like
they're
the
not
Red
going
Wings.
to. Yeah.
They'll have to ride the team until the wheels fall off before they miss the playoffs. They're
They'll be
gonna
5 points out of a playoff spot, and they'll be buyers before they're sellers. They'll be 10 points
Oh yeah,
back, and they'll be buyers before they be sellers. Like that's just the way they go. So for trading your captain Marchand, I don't see it.
yeah.
I don't see it.
I really doubt it. If they go on a really bad losing streak, then maybe I could see it. I think the Bruins would have to be at least 7th in the Atlantic. I think the Canadians would at least have to pass them before
Mhm.
they really think about
Yeah,
selling Marchand specifically. Um, if in the chance that he does end up getting moved, just gut feeling, we don't even need to look at the cap situation. Every team has somebody they can move out. Uh, Give me 3 teams that you think would at least want to be in on him.
I think the Oilers would.
That
I
makes a
think
lot
the
of
Oilers
sense.
definitely need someone like Marchand. Um,
Can you imagine a second line of like Corey Perry, Brad Marchand, and Leon Draisaitl?
well,
What a what
it would be fun, but you're in trouble if Corey Perry's in your top six. Um, I think Edmonton would definitely be in. Again, I think Edmonton should still go the route of trying to upgrade their goaltending, but they probably won't. Who's maybe Dallas. I could see Dallas trying to beef themselves up, make themselves a little bit tougher, knowing that like just having guys like Marchand and Jamie Benn. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Um,
Man, this
I'm just kind of looking through team. Maybe Colorado. Colorado
yeah,
could definitely use some winger help in their top six. So,
and we all know about the Nova Scotia connection there with
oh shit, yeah,
McKinnon.
I
So
didn't even think about that. Yeah, I imagine if he gets traded, it's probably out west to a west team.
I would imagine so. Like, there's a couple people online saying like, oh, that's a top 6 winger. That's exactly what Tampa needs right now. I'm like, man, we'd be hard pressed as a in division like direct rival taking Brad Marchand, their captain, one of their cornerstones for years, away from them.
You
Like,
would have to overpay. I think if you're a team
yeah,
in Boston's division, you would have to massively overpay to get him.
yeah,
And I don't even know what the market for a guy like Marchand would be. I couldn't even put together a realistic. I just don't know what his value is necessarily at right now. So
yeah. It's
in
kind
terms
of
of how teams are valuing him,
it's hard to tell. This year he's got 44 points, 20 of them goals in 57 games. He's a -7. This is the first time. I mean, the season's not over, but this is would be the first season he's been a minus since his rookie year, where he played
yeah,
20 games and had 1 point and was a -3 back in '09, the '09 season. So, obviously he's 36 years old and playing on a weaker team than he has for his entire career, but there is some ways you could say his value could be a bit lower, but I think it'd still be fairly high.
I think it's just because he is like he's not playing with David Pasternak anymore, right?
No,
Like
because they got to
Marchand
spread.
at his
He's one of
age
the guys they
is
spread out the scoring by
yeah,
moving.
he's being expected at his age to carry a line. Like he's kind of the guy on his line to carry it. So I imagine his value's still high. You know, is it as high as it was 1 or 2 years ago? Probably not, but I think it's still up there.
Yeah. One
Still
team
gotta be up
that
there.
luckily I don't think will land him, would be able to land him because they're in the division. Thank God for it. Is the Panthers? Uh, that just that would
Yeah,
just that
I
would just
I
seem
can't
so
see him going
annoying.
to Florida. Yeah, I can't. I really can't see. I could see him going to maybe a team in the Metro, but in the Atlantic in Boston's division. Yeah, I just really don't see that happening.
Yeah. And I'm glad to hear you say that because the idea of a second line of Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, and Brad Marchand is probably what they would run if they had him. And that just sounds awful.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't want to go up against that.
who's the least ratty player on that line? Is it Matthew Tkachuk
Marchand.
or is it Marchand? Like,
Marchand now.
yeah, like that. Yeah, like that. That would just be a gross line to play against in the playoffs.
Yeah. But let's move on to some Four Nations talk. Four Nations currently underway. Games 1 and 2 have taken place, the Canada-Sweden game and the USA-Finland game. Before we dive into those games, let's talk about what happened before puck drop for the first game, Canada-Sweden. The NHL officially announced that the World Cup of Hockey will be returning in the year of 2028, which is exactly what we expected. Every kind of the offsetting year of the Winter Olympics. So every 2 years, you're guaranteed to get some best on best hockey. This is huge for the NHL. This is huge for hockey. What are your initial thoughts on it?
Well, one part of it is I'm pretty sure that means for the next 3 years we're getting best on best, right?
Well, we will next year. We won't in 2027.
Oh, okay.
We won't. We
So
won't
we'll
in
have it
2027.
3 of the next 4 years, including
Yeah,
this year,
including
which
this year. Yeah,
is pretty nice after having such a long drought since the last time. I think
yeah,
this tournament absolutely proves that it's just so good for the game. I saw that I'm not sure exactly the number, but at least over 1 million people in the States watched the Canada Sweden game. That wasn't even the US game. So it
yeah.
was doing really good numbers in the States, less alone in Canada.
Well, and that's the
And
thing, right? Because obviously this term is taking place in February, kind of mid-season. Um, and a lot of and they have announced that the 2028 World Cup will take place around this same time. It'll be like a mid-February type of thing. And I saw a lot of people saying they want it to be like when they did the World Cup back in 2016, where that was mid September and kind of went to the later parts of September. As fun as that was, as cool as it is, you can't do that. No, like this is the perfect time for them to do this because again, maybe it does suck because it's during the middle of the regular season. You don't want guys getting injured, like we'll talk about with Shea Theodore. People thought that because it was in the middle of the regular season, effort levels wouldn't be there. Well, that's out the window. Like people who
yeah,
said that, shame on you. You look like a buffoon now for thinking that.
yeah, actually,
You,
they're
you were saying
busting
that
their ass.
yeah, and you were saying that like the ratings were doing good, the views were good. That's because of the time they're doing it at. What are they competing with right now?
NFL season just ended.
College football. Yeah, exactly. Like the Super Bowl just happened. College football's been done since, kind of early to mid January. There's no baseball right now. It's just the NBA. So if you're the NHL and you're like, okay, yeah, let's do it in mid to late September. Well, now you're competing with college football that's kind of starting up. The NFL's already underway. The MLB playoffs are slowly creeping up. It's like that's the worst time to do it because not if you're a huge baseball fan or football fan, and that more people are than they are hockey fans across the world, they're going to tune into that. But if the only thing is on and if you don't have baseball or football to watch, and the only thing is best on best hockey, yeah, you're probably going
It's
to
going to
tune
be on
into
it,
it and
be on in all the bars.
Yeah,
Like,
and if you're not a hockey fan and you start watching again the best on best, like what we saw from especially with Canada and the Americans, you're gonna be like, this shit bangs.
yeah,
And then it's like, well, what if I tell you this in a couple weeks, the big trade deadline, and then a month later, well, it's playoffs. Like you could get so many people engaged in hockey, so many people hooked on it, coming on down the home stretch of the season. Like, yeah, it
hell,
sucks, middle of regular season, but it's the best thing for the NHL and just hockey as a whole in terms of growing the game.
yeah. And you know what? If they do it at a similar time next year, you know what? You can advertise it, buy a commercial for the Super Bowl and say, "Hey, the US is playing next Saturday." Like that's that's literally like dozens of
Yeah,
millions of people, probably hundreds of millions. It's the freaking Super Bowl. It's the event. It's the event. It's the
yeah.
big one. Like
The
it's
only thing
the
bigger, I think,
biggest
is
thing.
the World Cup, like the actual World Cup. I think is the only thing bigger, and that's just
Yeah.
because soccer's the biggest thing in the world. But
Yeah.
again, World Cup is only every 4 years. Super Bowl guaranteed every year. So
Yeah. So I think it's just kind of the perfect time for it, and it's so good to have best on best back. Like I was surprised how many people thought the guys wouldn't be trying, like
yeah,
because
right.
the All Star game. I mean, sure, there's they even to try and get guys to compete more. They put the $1 million prize for the winning team, but that's just to the charity of your choice. Even if you lose, it's not like you're losing out on money for charity. It's just going to the other guy's charity. They're still getting it. You know, it's still
Yeah,
going somewhere good at least. Um, but this is for pride. This is for your country. Like it's the exact same as the Olympics, the World Cup of hockey. Like maybe it would be a little bit more at the Olympics, maybe, but, like, I can't see it improving much more over what we just saw over the past 2 games. Like,
yeah,
that's the hardest I've seen Jake Gensel skate all season, and I don't even have to think about it. It's not close. Like,
yeah,
he was trying harder out there than I've seen him in a Bolts jersey. Not that he's not trying out there, but he was busting his ass out there. Like,
yeah,
these guys are flying out there, and they are doing everything they can for their teams. So,
yeah. And
you
so
love to
getting
see
the
it.
opportunity to again, we're going to be getting best on best every second year is incredible. Now the thing they've already put out a couple things about the 2028 World Cup. It's not strictly to be hosted in North America. Like they're going to open it to cities and countries to bid on. So there's a possibility it can go overseas to Europe. It can stay in strictly Canada, strictly US, maybe both. That's open. Like there's no hard rules or regulations set on where it can take place. What we do know, and this is something we kind of talked about before when we were tossing around ideas about it, there will be no like merged teams, they said. So like how we had the North American team, which was 23 and under players, that won't exist. Team Europe, which consisted of a bunch of countries within that won't exist. So it'll be strictly like if you're playing, you're representing your country. It's an actual World
Like the
Cup now. There's
Olympics.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
There will be at least 8 teams. Don't know if it's gonna be more, but they
Really?
said there will at least be 8, which makes me wonder, well, it's kind of leading me to think, I think we're getting Russia in it.
Yeah, we
I
might.
think you have to, because I'm looking at it now, and you'd have Canada a lock, US lock, Sweden, Finland, Czechia. All of those are locks.
Yeah.
I'm throwing Russia in there, that brings you to 6,
I
but
got
then
to
you start to think,
well,
so what do you do? Because we
so
talked about Germany, you don't have enough
you don't
players
have
in the
enough
NHL
players,
to
but they have some high quality players as well. So,
exactly, right?
I
I don't
wonder if
know
they're gonna
about like
open it up.
Switzerland. I don't know about um uh yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know about like Switzerland, Denmark, Slovakia. I don't know how many they have in the NHL, but the way I'm looking at it, I think Russia's going to be in it.
Probably.
I think they have to.
And I do wonder if they will open it up to, because right now it's all NHL players. Nobody else is eligible for the Four
Mhm.
Nations, at least. I wonder if they're going to open it up potentially to guys who aren't in the NHL because it's being put on by the NHL, but it's kind of a pseudo. It's like a distant thing because it's obviously not like a regular season thing, but it is still
Yeah.
under their banner, and they want guys to be under their contracts for it. So it will be interesting to see. Are they going to have a team Germany, but they bring in a couple of guys from whatever other leagues that are some of the other best German players to fill it out, or
I
are they
don't
just
see it
not?
happening if it's a strict NHL event because and it's probably it probably wouldn't happen, but for argument's sake, because this would if
Yeah,
it's talked about, this will be an
that's
argument
how
that
you
will
that's how you got to start.
100% be
Yeah,
brought
you
to
got
the
to start
table.
the conversations there.
If you bring, say, um, I don't know, just some random dude, we'll call him dude from Germany, and like, hey, you're gonna play for
Yeah,
Germany in this World Cup. What is to stop them? Because they're playing in a completely different league. This is under the NHL. What would stop them from going out there and you're getting walloped by Canada
and just taking a
just
run.
10 nothing, and you just swing your elbow and you just clock McDavid right in the jaw?
Yeah.
Sure, you'd get kicked out of the game, but then it's like the NHL can't
Suspend me for
discipline
10
you.
NHL games?
The
Yeah,
NHL
okay.
could be like, "Yeah, you're done the rest of the tournament." Okay, well then you just go back to your league, and maybe there'd be disciplinary action from your league, but maybe not because it's like, "Hey, you weren't playing in our league. We can't take action against you
Yeah. Maybe there'd
because
be a
this was out of our
briefcase full of money
parameters."
waiting for him at his hotel
Yeah,
room. Like,
you were
yeah,
playing over in a tournament in North America. You weren't in our league. We can't discipline you. And again, like, not saying that's going to happen, but that's probably going to be something that would be brought to the table, and it would be a conversation starter.
yeah.
So, but again, the other
It
side
is a
is
legitimate argument. Like, do you
if you
you just
don't
bring in some
bring those
guys?
guys,
I
Germany can't be in.
But not even
We
just
already talked
Germany.
about it.
Like,
You only have 9 players, right? Or 7.
can you even make what did they say? 8 teams? Can you even make 8 teams with different countries? Like, forgetting the quality of player entirely, can you even make that many with the inclusion of Russia? I feel like you probably can't.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't think you can.
So
Because
they
you know
must
Canada
they must
can,
have
US, Sweden,
something.
Finland, Czechia, and Russia can. The thing is, I don't know about us like a Switzerland and a actually really kind of Switzerland because I don't even think Slovakia. Maybe
Well,
maybe I don't think so though.
I kind of think Slovakia could. I don't think Slovenia could, unfortunately,
Slovenia
for
definitely couldn't.
Kopitar.
Definitely couldn't.
But I think there's probably enough from Slovakia if I had to guess. Slovakia
Yeah,
and
I'm
NHL.
not too sure.
But yeah, it's interesting because it'd be pretty tough for them to figure out how basically just how you can put these teams together. Um
Yeah,
okay, so at a quick glance, there's a lot of retired players in here. I just googled Slovakian NHL players, but I am seeing a decent amount of current players. And if uh if you're including AHL guys who would be on, NHL/AHL contracts,
oh yeah.
then I imagine they probably could make a Slovakian team. They got some names as well. Like, not
And
massive
so
names,
I
but
guess yeah, if you can bring AHL guys, then you Switzerland probably you would probably have enough with Switzerland then as well. I would imagine.
yeah. Yeah. I think AHL players would count, like it would be because they're technically on just two-way NHL contracts.
Yeah, but the biggest take I'm kind of getting from that is I think Russia's in.
Most likely. And
I think most likely Russia will, and especially because like it is 2028, it's 3 years down the line. I got to imagine by then. I imagine though Russia will be back at that point in the double HF, like back in the World Championship, World Juniors, and by that point, I think
it's
in the
so
NHL
hard to
World Cup,
tell.
I imagine they will be at that point.
And you know what? It's kind of interesting because we definitely don't have to get into it, but like, you know, there's some people, it's definitely a majority, at least for now, or minority, at least for now. But, there's a lot of people saying, how fair is it that, American players and the NHL and everyone is saying, don't boo our national anthem and stuff when That's such a random thing to complain about when like you're allowed to play here while your country's threatening our country. Russia's not even involved at all in the tournament because of their involvement with another country. And obviously they're
Yeah.
very different scenarios. They're very complicated,
Yeah,
but
but I get the you're I get the yeah, I get what you're saying though, and yeah, it makes sense. Like
yeah,
I get the path you're on though with that for sure.
yeah. And I want to give a shout out. I can't I can't say who because they were anonymous, but over the past few days, every reporter under the sun that has had access to these players has asked all of them, "What do you think about the booing of the American national anthem? Do you think it's fair? What do you think about the political things between the US and Canada right now?" Almost all of them have said either no comment or they have said, I don't like them booing it. So they're either not answering the question or, uh, for lack of a better term, kind of taking America's side with it. Not
Mhm.
in the overall thing, but that's what they say.
Yeah.
Um, Clearly, they were told not to say the other thing, which is, yeah, boo it up, go Canada.
Yeah.
But one anonymous player did say, "Man, yeah, an American player, by the way, if that was my country, I'd be doing a hell of a lot more than booing the national anthem. It's a fucking disgrace." I don't He remained anonymous
Wow.
because he would probably be ostracized by his team. He'd be in a lot of trouble from the league. But whoever that guy is, I hope he sees he's seeing the reaction to his words online because everyone's being like, "Holy shit!" At least there's one guy somewhere that is understands, right?
Mhm.
So it's understands why people are booing, even if because he did say he didn't agree with it, but he
Yeah.
understood why, and he says, "I'm not going to blame him for it."
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll probably
Hey,
never know who
fair
that
enough
is
though.
because he would be under a
Yeah,
lot of
oh yeah,
scrutiny.
no.
But you know what? Whoever he is,
Maybe when they're long
chill.
retired, it'll
Yeah, yeah. If he doesn't
maybe
have
they'll
a
come out and
an office
tell
job
us or
afterwards.
something. Um, but we'll kind of keep an eye on the stuff with the World Cup. Obviously, it is still 3 years away, so there's lots of time for them to figure everything out. But we'll follow along with it. As we've been waiting so long for this official announcement that it's for sure going to be a thing, and
Yeah,
they just got to figure out all the different ins and outs.
the different
Um,
rules for who can play. What ice size they're going to use, what type of reffing style. I don't think they mentioned that for this. I would love for them to outright say like this will be refed like a regular season NHL game. Hell, if you even want to say this will be refed like a playoff game, fine. Like at least
yeah,
just say it, you know?
yeah.
Like we can pretend it's the same refing for both, but it ain't. Like
And I'll say this, and then we'll move on to the Four Nations stuff. This is just gonna be my prediction because we know that Gary Bettman is kind of nearing towards retirement. It's already been brought up. He's already kind of talked about it. I'm assuming this is my prediction, and then we'll wait through and see if it happens. I think his last year will be um the 2027-2028 season. I think his last thing will be he brought the World Cup of Hockey back. I think it's going to be a huge, great success because they have so much time to plan for it. And then at the end of that season, that'll be when he officially retires, and that'll kind of be his last mark that he leaves on the league is officially bringing back the World Cup of Hockey for us to enjoy. So that's my prediction there.
when would that be, sorry? Is that in the
And that would be the end of the 2027-2028 season. So in 2028, around whenever the Stanley Cup's awarded, and
Okay.
at that point, probably late June, the way the calendar keeps seeming to go for the NHL, I think that's when he'll officially retire.
Okay, I could definitely see that. I'm still in the camp. I expect it to be probably after the 2026 season because the start of the 2026 season is when the current CBA expires and the new one will have to be in place. And so, assuming there's not going to be a lockout, which it sounds like talks are going well on both sides so far and it's not headed that way at all. Um I think he's going to put the new CBA in place and then either I doubt he'll retire like at the start of the season, so I imagine he'll wait out till after the cup is handed out in well, I guess that would be in 2027.
So then at
Af
that point, what's like? Why wouldn't he just be like, yeah, one more year, and he gets to be the front man of the World Cup, right?
He could still probably. say that he did it, even if he's not there for it. But either way, you know what?
I don't think
One
many
one
people are
year
going to give him the
difference.
time of day once he retires, though. I don't think many people are going to give him a platform as much.
Nah, but
Someone will. Obviously, there will be someone, but I can't imagine there's going to be people lined up at the gates to get him in. Maybe we'll get him in. Maybe we'll get Gary over here and chat. But let's
yeah, we'll
talk
have him
about
on the pod.
some Four Nations, where the effort levels again were at an all-time high. So a lot of silly people out there. They're feeling pretty stupid right now, thinking that the effort wasn't going to be that these guys weren't going to care. It's going to be a bunch of all-star games. Pfft. Look weird now. Look
It,
silly now. Braden, talk us through game one. Great
um,
opening ceremony, and we got to
yeah.
watch a great game between Canada and Sweden.
One thing I do want to say is that I'm seeing people say like, "Damn, like they're going out there with playoff level effort." I'll do you one better. It's like game 6, game 7 level effort out there. Like
Yeah.
I feel like if you take any average game 2 or 3 in the playoffs effort, I feel like it's not as good as what we're seeing out there. These guys are
Hmm.
going. Probably not the physicality necessarily, but the overall effort
Expecting that.
is
We weren't
definitely there.
expecting but we're still getting lots of physicality though.
Well, especially in the second game, which we can talk
Yeah.
about for sure.
Yeah.
But Canada, Sweden, absolute barn burner. Like you said, the opening ceremony was great. The cheer for Mario Lemieux coming out for Team Canada was deafening. Incredible
I
to
can't
see
believe
that.
people were complaining about that opening ceremony. They were just like, and I get it, if you're on the side of like trying to be courteous towards the people watching in Sweden, like, because obviously it was very late for them, but I get the sentiment of it of, first of all, bringing out these legends, and then because it's the only time you're going to get it where you can have, representatives of all four nations together. And they did that by bringing out Barkov and Matthews, the captains of Finland and the Americans, kind of get that photo. And they did the cool, thing of swapping the small banners. Like, yeah, if you think it's corny, but at the same time, it's kind of cool because again, it is the only time this entire tournament that you're going to get to see all four nations kind of together there, as part of, again, what is going to go down as a monumental tournament. Is what is bringing back the World Cup of hockey. So I thought it was awesome. Yeah, it was a bit long, but hey,
They
fuck,
often
people will
are.
sit there for hours to watch the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. So what's a 35-minute opening ceremony for this tournament? Like, just enjoy it.
Yeah,
Just
they
be
didn't.
happy.
Yeah, it's just
I didn't
kind
think
of
they milked it.
not really, especially
Like,
for how those
they
things
went through it
often
as
go.
fast as they could, I think.
Yeah, like the default for these things is kind of they're milking it, but like that's the whole point. They're not trying to it's for the fans in attendance and it's for respecting the people. Like there's no way you really can rush it because it's you're not there's no point you're trying to get to. You're not handing this guy thing, you take this thing, now get the hell off the ice. Like if you don't do the pomp and circumstance it, then there's absolutely no point and if anything it feels worse than if they didn't do it at all. Now it's like
Yeah,
disrespectful. So yeah,
yeah,
it was fine. I could take it or leave it. I don't really care either way necessarily.
yeah. Like if they didn't do it, I'd be
But
like, I wouldn't even notice. But they did it. I was like, you know what? It's cool, and I'm not gonna be
yeah,
a Debbie Downer and be like, oh, that was awful. Like it took away from the experience of the game. No, it didn't. I've honestly, for a good part, I forgot it even happened after the puck drop.
yeah, yeah.
It
Nobody
wasn't until I
left the
saw a thing
arena
on
that night.
Twitter of Bell Center going crazy for Lemieux. I was like, oh yeah, there was that opening ceremony because I was focused on the game at that point because it was great hockey we were getting.
Yeah, nobody left the arena that night going, man, that opening ceremony dragged on. No, they were hyped
Yeah,
about the rest of the game.
yeah. It was just it was a great atmosphere. Montreal was a perfect place for this. Like,
Yeah.
they couldn't have picked a better location for this to happen, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the game.
Oh, the game. It did early on it did not look like it was going to be close at all. Both interesting because every time Mitch Marner touched the puck, nothing but love. William Nylander for Sweden or Austin Matthews for the US booed into oblivion every
Yeah.
time they touched the puck. And people thought, "Oh, yeah, it's Austin Matthews because it's the American thing." Well, they were doing it for Nylander and he's on Team Sweden. So I don't think it's that as much of that once you get into the game. But
Yeah.
Nylander taking a high sticking penalty 44 seconds in, 56 seconds in, that is 12 seconds into the power play. Good God. Connor McDavid to Crosby to McKinnon buries it. Absolute filth.
We've waited
Absolute
what? From the
dirty.
moment McDavid was drafted, we've been waiting to get best on best, getting McKinnon, Crosby, and McDavid together.
Yeah.
And the first time we finally do, it doesn't even take a minute into the game. They get a goal and it's all three of them together on it. Like
12
that
seconds
that's
into
a
the power play.
Canadian goal right there.
Yeah.
And again, it didn't even take a minute. It took 56 seconds.
Yeah.
Half the people like the build
Nasty pass by Crosby.
all the
Backhanded it
fans
through the
were
crease. Like
yeah,
goalie had no chance.
all the fans were on their feet for opening puck drop. No one was sitting by the time these 3 combined for a goal.
Yeah.
Like, it just happened that quick. It looked so effortlessly by them. It was,
We got to watch a Canadian Heritage Minute in real time.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
like
Actually,
yeah,
though, yeah.
like I could see like a background, like a wide angle shot of that play happening being put like transparently in the background of the $5 bill someday.
Yeah.
Like the where it's
Well,
got the kids playing
maybe not the
hockey.
5. Maybe not the 5. We can't take away from our boy Terry.
Oh,
If
true,
you're
true.
not a Canadian listening, Terry Fox will be on the new $5 bills, and I
So
can't wait
true.
to just say, "Hey, I'll give you a Fox 5," as I give someone a 5 or a Foxy 5. Whatever way you wanna go with it, it's cool.
Dude,
So, we can't touch the 5.
the way people will call $100 bill a Benjamin, calling a $5 bill a Terry,
To
that
Terry.
that's pretty good. That's pretty
Oh man,
good.
what if they put him on it on the toonie, a Terry toonie? Ooh,
Oh.
fuck. Anyways, start of the game though,
Electric.
electric, so good. Like literally, electric is the perfect way to describe it. Only penalty for Sweden all game though. I think I think they got the message pretty quick that yeah, you can't give Canada a power play.
Oh, yeah, if
Message received
I
loud and
think
clear.
I think I actually said it out loud to my wife while I was watching the game. Like after they scored that goal, I was like, if I'm the coach of Team Sweden, I wait till Nylander gets back to the bench after after the goal, and then I like address the whole team, and I'm like, the next person to take a penalty is sitting for the rest of the game and possibly the next game. Like
Yeah,
I'd be like, you do not let that power play touch the ice again. You can't.
yeah,
There's no defending it. So
yeah.
good on them for an accidental high stick, and you know what, clean the whole rest of the game. The only other penalty the entire rest of the game was Josh Morrissey took a high sticking late in the third.
It was a
Nobody
tie
scored
game
on
at
that.
that point. It was a little whew.
Yeah,
I'm sweating a little bit watching that.
yeah. So second goal, Seth Jarvis makes a really nice pass up to point, burns the defenseman over to Marchand. He buries it like basically an empty netter.
Nothing Gustafson could have done. 2
Both go-
goals, he had no
both
chance.
goals, yeah, like yeah, just brutal, man. Like what is he supposed to do? Like
Yeah.
these guys are so good. And from then on, it looked like Canada was going to dominate the game. I
The
was
rest of the
strapping
first
myself in.
period, they dominated, and it was like, "Oh, shit," like, I expect this to be a bit of a closer game, and, obviously it did, as we can dive into the second. Jonas Brodin, the defenseman we were questioning a little bit, about being up there on the top pair with Victor Hedman, he gets Sweden on the board, and that's exactly what they needed. They needed to get that first one by and get some
Great shot.
life back into that team. Just before the halfway minute, the halfway point of the game, they get on the board there. So
Yeah,
that was huge for Sweden.
yeah, nice shot from over on the right circle. There was like three guys screening. It was a well-timed shot, just kind of picked the corner like that. Yeah, they scored and everyone was looking around like, what the fuck just happened? Who ripped that? So good on Brodeen because he was the one guy that we were saying might need to come out of the lineup at some point. So
Yep. And then
good for him.
a little bit later, more towards near the end of the second period, Great play by Sidney Crosby, again, the guy that we're going to be talking about a lot. Feeds it to another guy that we were a little bit questioning why he was on the line with McKinnon, Crosby, Mark Stone, and he rips home a fantastic shot. You could argue maybe one that Gustafsson had, but I'm just giving it to that. That was just a great shot by Stone. That's a goal scorer's goal, and I'm putting that more on. It's a great play by Stone than a misplay by Gustafsson.
Yeah, like I saw a lot of people saying, especially on the second and third goals for Sweden, a lot of people were kind of blaming the goalies on some of these shots, and I'm like, these are like a lot of these are like lasers, man. Like
Yeah.
like you might want him to have it. It'd be nice if he saved it, but like I'm not really hanging it on the goalie too much. Like
Yeah, no, especially when again, it's Binnington. Like still a good goalie, Stanley Cup champion, but he shouldn't be in the game. He shouldn't probably should. Well, maybe on the team. Maybe he's like the third, but
yeah, but you know what?
again,
He earned
shouldn't be
this
the
spot.
starting goalie going into it. So I'm not gonna blame him.
Yeah, if anything, I would blame the GM who didn't pick up Logan Thompson or Blackwood.
Yeah,
Um,
and then third period, really like a just kind of an onslaught from Sweden. They
it
get a
was all
very early
Sweden.
goal from Adrian Kempe that really kind of gets the team back going. 1-goal game. About 6 minutes later, Joel Eriksson Ek rips one home, gets them right back in the game, tie game, and
That Kempe
we go to
shot
overtime.
was another one. That's a laser, man. Like
Yeah,
everyone was saying Binnington should have had it. I was like, I don't know, man. He ripped that thing. And it was
it was a
through a bit
great
of a
shot.
moving screen with the defenseman. Like he was kind of unguarded, but still there was a screen. Like, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, I
But
can't blame Bennington whatsoever. Um,
it's all
and we
tied
get to
up at
overtime,
3-3.
and what a man, we are witnessing the beauty of what a because how much time was left on the clock when it ended?
It would have been it happened 6 minutes and 6 seconds into overtime. So there would have been 13:54 left.
Well, no, because it was only 10 minutes. It was only 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then it
But
would have
we're
been
getting to see the beauty of
3:54.
what 3-on-3 overtime is
It
at,
was really
at
good.
more than 5 minutes, I should say. For getting a 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime, we're starting to see how great it can be. I know some of the players were like, shit, they were gassed, but it's like for a viewing experience, man, as a fan, it was so much better not having to be like fuck 5 minutes and then like if it wasn't 10 minutes, we would have been getting a shootout, and that would have been the worst way to end a game like this. Like it needed to end in
Yeah.
overtime,
Yeah.
and
And
boy, did we get that. If you want to
I
set the scene here for us,
before I talk about the goal, I do just want to talk about the overtime in general. Both teams had so many chances. Binnington made two or three really good highlight reel saves.
fantastic saves.
Absolutely saved it. Actually, you know what? One we didn't talk about during I don't even remember if it was overtime or I think it was late in the third, but there was one time where the pass came across to I want to say Marchand. You know what? It might have been Devon Taves, kind of in the slot, and he just got a clean look at an empty net, and Gustafson flies over and saves it
Oh
with the
yeah,
blocker.
yeah,
That was
yeah. That was
massive.
third period. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
That was an absolutely huge save. By the end of the game, both goalies were balling out. Um,
they were both like
Overtime,
locked in. They
yeah,
were.
and we get to overtime and couple chances back and forth. McKinnon took it to the net quite a few times. Wasn't going. Both teams had a lot of good chances, but by the end, Crosby coming up center ice and makes a floaty backhand pass to nobody in center ice, like the cardinal sin of overtime. But guess what? It's Sid the Kid. He doesn't care, so he does it.
He knows
Marner
what he's
grab
doing.
Marner grabs it, walks in. Very similar goal to Adrian Kempe. Walks in across the line, gets to maybe the top of the circle, probably not even, and just absolutely lasers it top left corner.
Yeah,
Canada wins it 4-3. That was like obviously everyone's talking about Crosby because he had such a great game, but like great shot by Marner.
great game by Marner. I thought Marner had a very excellent game, and yeah, obviously the biggest story coming out of it was Sidney Crosby. Um, is he? I don't know for sure, and we're not about facts here. We're just about saying stuff and hoping we're right.
Of
Pretty
course.
sure Crosby might be the oldest player in the
Yeah,
tournament.
I believe so. I'm pretty sure I saw that online. Yes, I can
So,
double check that for you.
to be the oldest player going into this tournament, and not many people questioning him getting the C. I think everybody was kind of on the boat that he deserved to get the C.
Yeah,
What a statement game from him though, proving that when he's on the ice, he's still the best player in the world.
yeah,
And in terms of just what he does, uh, I mean, again, like if we're talking about like old best player, like skill wise and whatnot, like obviously Connor McDavid, but like man, it still just feels like in these big moments in these international games, like it's still when Crosby puts on that Canadian jersey, no one's better than him. No one's better than him.
yeah. And I mean, obviously, that game one for Canada, Crosby was given player of the game. I think the arena actually probably got louder for that than pretty much any other time, other than maybe during the when the overtime goal was scored. Like they were
Yeah,
losing it. They were announcing players 2 and 3, and people were chanting Crosby the whole time. They were
yeah,
ready for number one from the get go.
yeah.
Um,
It was well deserved. Crosby had a phenomenal game.
he is the
No
oldest
other way
player
to
in
put
the
it.
Four
Like
Nations.
he is okay. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
like
Terrific game.
he's playing at such an insane level and always has for Team Canada. We actually have some of the stats here. If you're listening to the podcast, you've probably seen some of these because they're all over the place because they're just nuts. Some of the like these look a lot of them look like Gretzky numbers. Um, so in his last 26 games playing for Team Canada, Crosby is first of all 26-0-0. He hasn't lost in 26 games playing for Team Canada in any capacity, which is absolutely nuts. In that 26 game span, he's got 10 goals, 29 points, and he is a plus 87 because of fucking horse Sidney Crosby is a plus
Of course he
87.
is. That's why he jumped off the ice once he gave it to Marner. Because even though Crosby got an assist, he technically wasn't on the ice, so he didn't get a plus there. If he was on, he would be a plus 88, but he's like, nope. He's like, Marner's going to bury this. And he knew. You can try and say he didn't. He knew he would have been at a plus 87 if he hopped off there and Marner ripped it. He knew it would stay intact. And again, yeah, like the stats you list off, it just shows how incredible of a player he
like
is. Like,
that's such a high bar and such a grand stage. Plus 87 over 26 games.
yeah,
Like where's my dang calculator? Because teacher said I wouldn't have one in my pocket at all times. 87 divided by 26. He's averaging a plus 3.3 for Team Canada.
yeah,
like, so even if he never had a single goal against in any of those games while he's on the ice, he still has to be out there for, on average, almost 3.5 goals per game. That's
yeah,
so freaking goofy, man. Like, yeah, there's after that last game and people are talking about it, like there's a lot of people that are, being like, fuck, like people were wondering if Crosby's like top 5. Like now we're talking like where is he compared to Lemieux? What does he have to do to be around Gretzky? Like because obviously you can point to the NHL stats and it's going to be so long before anybody touches Gretzky's. But when you're looking at international play, is he the best? Is he the best player we've ever seen representing a single country? It's pretty possible.
it's very possible. It is very possible at this point now. Yeah.
He's been Captain Canada for over a decade, and he's just shown no sign of stopping. I cannot
And we
wait
were
for the
robbed of
US game.
we were robbed of what 2018, 2022 of getting him in the Olympics. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like
just insane to
we
think
could have
of
had
where
extra
what
times.
numbers he would have as if he was playing during those years as well, right? So um yeah, incredible player, incredible game by Crosby. You know, You knew every player was going to show up to play game one, but again, to see your captain, the oldest guy playing the tournament, Crosby, go out there and just take the game over whenever he wants, it just
Yeah.
proves how incredible of a player he is. But before I guess we move over to and talk about the U.S. Finland game, we should just quickly brief over the injuries that were sustained on the Canadian side in game one. If you want to give us the rundown of those injuries and where the team's kind of looking at going into Saturday's clash with the Americans.
Yeah. So Shea Theodore is now listed as week to week. He is officially out for the remainder of the Four Nations. His return timeline to the NHL is almost exactly when the playoffs start. I think it's have it listed as 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. And I think the playoffs start in around 8 weeks. So a lot of people are saying Marchand to Vegas or something like that now. They got some money freed up. So you know how much they love to do that. It happens
Yeah.
every year. It's just like at a certain point, it's like what do you want us to say other than we assume you're cheating? Like at a
Yeah.
certain point, like obviously it's a real injury, but like I don't know. Anyway, so Shea Theodore's out. Uh, Thomas Harley has been notified that he might be needed to join Team Canada. He will only join if there are not 6 players eligible that were already on the team to play defense. He cannot just join the team. He's basically an e-bug. He's an emergency backup defenseman. So they still have 6 guys. Sanheim will fit in for Theodore for now, but uh, Harley might play as soon as Canada US on Saturday because right now Cale Makar is listed as day to day. He has just some sort of illness. I guess he's sick. He caught something. I gotta imagine he's seething. I gotta imagine he's so pissed, like that he would get sick right now for this at this specific time. Are you kidding me? So
Yeah.
like, I imagine he's pumping himself full of uh, Buckley's Benadryl, whatever he has to do to be good to go for the next game because Makar is not going to want to miss those.
Yeah, and I don't. I think he'll play. I don't expect him to miss to miss any games, especially with the game coming up on Saturday against Americans. I don't expect him to miss that.
Yeah, and man, it would absolutely blow if we finally got best on best, and then because of injury or illness, we miss out on games of Cale Makar. We don't get to see Quinn Hughes or Miro Heiskanen. Like
Yeah,
that sucks, man. Like
the best
that.
defenseman from those 3 countries. Yeah, not getting them would be
Yeah, for 3 of the 4 countries, the best defenseman not be in there. Like that would
yeah.
absolutely suck.
But
So hopefully
again,
Makar
I
is
do
good.
fully I do fully expect Makar to play. I think obviously getting the 2 days off is definitely going to help. And yeah, I don't see a world in which he doesn't play in this game. So
Yeah. But that's all we have
but
so far for the
with that,
injuries. Luckily, no
yeah,
more than that. But we can get into the US Finland game. Um,
yeah. Do you want to talk us through this one?
so honestly, like, so if you didn't watch the game and you're just looking at the score, like you'll hear this plenty of times in hockey and in sports in general, but the final score really does not tell the story. Uh, so
Yeah,
the final score ended up being 6-1, US over Finland. The scoring per period went 1-1, so it was tied 1-1 at the end of the first. Then it was 2-1 for US at the end, and then 4 goals in the third period for the US. So they kind of opened it up at the end there. I think they had 2 goals in like what was it, 12 seconds to start the third period, so it got away from them pretty quick in the third, but up until that
yeah,
point, the game looked like almost like unreasonably close. Like looking at the talent on the US team and especially the blue line in Finland, a lot of people thought it would be a blowout early on, and Finland actually scored the first goal, their only goal, but they got on the board first, and They
one of the
they
biggest
looked in it for
takeaways
most of
is
it.
one of the biggest debates I saw. Obviously, a lot of people are always going to be debating Canada and the US going to these tournaments, but a big one was the power plays. And being like, oh, which power play would you take? And obviously, kind of hurts the Americans a bit not having Quinn Hughes. But I thought it was funny that Canada gets that early power play against Sweden, and immediately, like, their best three players, bing, 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 score. The Americans get one pretty early on in, about 2.5 minutes into the game. Joel Armia takes a cross-checking penalty. Again, they don't have Quinn Hughes, but they didn't get an actual shot registered on net in the whole 2 minutes of their power play. So I thought it
Yeah.
was kind of funny that there's a big debate in Canada's power play, and their one go early on made a big splash, and the Americans kind of struggled. Obviously, they did figure it out as their power play did go 2 for 4. But it was kind of funny watching their first one and like all this hype, and there was didn't even get a shot on net. I thought was a little
Yeah.
funny, but obviously at the Finland gets the first goal. Henry Jokiharju blasts one from the right side. Pretty nice shot, and got Finland on the board
Yeah.
early, and kind of gave some hope that, like, shit, maybe Finland can maybe pull off an upset, or they can hang around in this game right till the end. And they did that through 2 periods. I will give them that, and did get away from them in the third, but you know for what they were going in with and the expectations on them, I think they still played a good game.
Yeah. No, yeah, they still played honestly a really good game, and it got away from them in the third, but they played a pretty complete game. They had a lot of chances. Um Barkov looked insane out there. Rantanen looked good at moments. I know there was one play where I was like almost screaming at my TV. I was like, does this guy know that he's like a big body? Like,
Well, we know Ranton's a little banged up going into this tournament.
is he? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he was a little bit banged up when he went over to Montreal and whatnot. So I imagine he's not feeling at 100%. But
Yeah, he's
he
6'4".
was good enough that he could play, but maybe not to the full level that he's normally able to play,
Yeah.
which hurts Finland
And
because he's a,
it
a,
it
a
wasn't
huge
any of
player
his
in that team.
like it wasn't any of his like stick handling or anything like that. There was a single play where he got knocked down 4 or 5 times, and none of them were big booming hits. It was just some guy coming in and kind of just bumping into him. He just kind of kept flying around. It was really weird to watch. He'd get hit by guys so much smaller with not a lot of force, and he just kept falling over. And I was like, "What? He looks like a baby deer when he's getting hit. Like,
Yeah,
what's going on?" And then like Barkov's shorter than him, and he'll go in there and crunch somebody, and I'm like, do that, do
yeah,
that. So I don't know. Maybe he was just having a weird shift or an off night, and he's still a little injured. But on the overall, he still had a good game, and pretty
yeah.
much the whole team did. Except again for that third period. But it has already been said that Kevin Lankinen is slated to start for Finland against Sweden on Saturday. So they're going with Lankinen over Saros. I thought Saros had a pretty good game. He made a couple of really important saves for him. You know, got shelled a little bit near the end, but uh, Kevin Lankinen's been having a great year. So I guess we'll see what damage he can do versus Sweden.
Yeah, like if Finland lost this game 3-1 or something, Saros probably plays. But again, like, he did let in 6 again. It's not like he had a horrible game, but I like the call of switching over to Lankinen and trying to spark something. Maybe he can get hot. We've seen that he's gone on multiple stretches this year with the Canucks where he gets hot. He plays like he's one of the best in the world. So I'm very excited to see him get the start against Sweden and see if he can maybe try and steal a game for Finland, as it's a must win for Finland. If Finland goes out there and loses to Sweden on Saturday, their game against Canada doesn't matter for them, as they'll already be eliminated uh, from making it to the final championship game next Thursday. I think it is. I think it's Thursday next week.
That
Um,
seems right.
so yeah, I like the call for Finland. I'm excited to watch them play, and I think it's going to be a good matchup. I think between Finland and Sweden, I expect that to be a close one. Um,
Yeah,
the
that'll
Americans,
be
though,
a really fun game.
I thought they had a great game. I saw lots of flashes. I saw lots of guys really step up. Like the two Kachucks, I mean, they were just
Each had two
insane
goals.
together, the two of them. Really kind of taking over that third period as they scored 3 of the 4. Brady getting his second of the night, and then Matthew getting 2 of their 4 goals. They looked incredible together when they were out there with Eichel. Was one of the best lines I've seen ever. Uh, yeah, like
Yeah,
they
it
just look
is.
great, and I think their matchup against Canada is going to be um, insane. Now, seeing what we've seen from both of these teams in their first games.
Yeah, and I do think because of what we saw in the US game will kind of give some reasoning to the line changes we've seen from Team Canada going forward in their practices because if you watched even the first 2 minutes of this game, the US came out heavy. Brady Kachuk absolutely bodies somebody in the corner. JT Miller goes in, bodies somebody. The puck goes the other way. They swap lines. Matthew Kachuk comes out there, absolutely flattens a defenseman on the boards. Like they were heavy early on.
They
And
had a game plan going into it, and they went out and they executed, and they were on it right from the start.
yeah. Um but yeah, 2 goals from Matthew Kachuk, 2 from Brady Kachuk, 1 from Jake Gensel, and 1 from Matt Boldy, who redirected a shot from Brock Faber. So 2 Minnesota Wild teammates combining for that. I think was that their first or their second goal?
Second goal,
Yeah, for the second
second
goal,
goal.
and that was really cool to see because they're definitely not some of the names that everyone's like, oh look, this guy's on the team, but they combined for it. They're on the same team. They're both pretty young. I think they were both. I think they're the 2 youngest guys on the American team. Uh,
Wouldn't
I
surprise
think they
me.
said Faber's 22 and Boldy's like 23. Like it's like they're pretty damn young. So
Yeah,
that's really cool for them. But just unreal team over there, and uh, yeah, they're a heavy team, so Canada's making some changes to the lineup. The top 6 is the same, but they have moved around the bottom 6 a good bit. They have the third line now as Hagel, Sorelli, and Point, and then the fourth line as Marchand on the left, Jarvis on the right, and Sam Bennett is the center.
Sam
They
Bennett.
brought Konechny
And
into the
that's
lineup.
exactly what this was exactly where I was expecting Ben to come in this game against Americans, as he was kind of brought to be a big body and play physical games. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they kind
makes
of
it makes
need somebody
sense.
out there to counter all the hitting in the heavy game that the US is playing. And I mean, if you're bringing Bennett to a best on best tournament, you know what you're putting him out there for.
Crazy though that Konechny had the lowest odds to score a goal for Canada in their game against Sweden. Now he's the healthy scratch. I still don't know why his odds were so much lower than everybody else's, but
Yeah. Like
um,
low returns, like he had high odds to
yeah,
score. Yeah.
yeah.
I have
Um,
no idea. That was one of those ones where it felt like it was somebody put in a wrong number somewhere. Like I remember there was
yeah.
I remember I think it was maybe 2 seasons ago. I was on whatever betting app I was using and there was a game against I think it was a low down team. It might have been the Sabres. And for whatever reason, the odds were like plus 2,000 for Kucherov to score a goal. Like he was like below he was like Eric Chernak numbers. And
Huh.
I was like, okay, so I put like $1 on it and won $20 because he scored, and I was like, I feel like they're gonna take this away from me. I feel like I'm being tricked, but somebody somewhere put a decimal in the wrong spot.
Yeah, someone messed up. You got to take advantage of those.
Yeah, they can suck
Um,
it.
so we now know that the stage is set for Saturday. We will have Finland and Sweden taking place earlier on in the day. That game is also in Montreal. Both games are in Montreal.
Are these
Um,
the last ones in Montreal before they move on to Boston?
I believe so. Yeah, because the 2 Monday games both take place in Boston, and we do know that the final game takes place in Boston. So yeah, so two games on Saturday in Montreal before the teams fly off to
Head
Boston for the remainder of the tournament. They're going to be great games. Finland, Sweden, I think, is going to be close, as I think they're obviously 2 very good teams, still 2 very good countries, a lot of good players on the lower end of these 4. And then you get the big
These are the
clash
rivalries, right?
Saturday night between, huh?
These are like the rivalries. Like obviously there's,
Yeah,
there's a bit of a rivalry between Canada and Sweden and US and Sweden and Finland and all that, but the
These are
main
the kind of
ones
the big
are
ones. Yeah.
Sweden, Finland, Canada, US. And it's
Yeah.
not even necessarily because of the level of skill they have, but also just, their countries right beside each other, they're rivals in all kinds of things like this. So it
Yeah. It's just
yeah,
built
it's
up
going to be
over
a
time. So
phenomenal game, a phenomenal day for hockey on
yeah.
the 15th.
Before we wrap it up here, with our final segment, give me your quick predictions. Who's winning these two games?
Who's winning these two games? I really don't want to just predict that Finland is going to lose every game, but that Sweden team looked pretty damn good. I
Yeah.
got to take Sweden to beat Finland. I would love for them to upset. I would love for them to win some of these games. But yeah, I'm definitely taking Sweden. U.S. Canada. I mean, what seems more likely, 26-1 or 27-0?
Yeah.
Um, I'm not betting against Crosby. Like
Yeah.
he,
No.
he he's legitimately making McDavid look like a guy who should be wearing an A. Like what a goofy statement.
Yeah.
Like we
Just
haven't
shows
we
again,
haven't
like
even
we talked
got
about, Crosby on
McDavid to
Canada
shine yet.
is yeah.
So you know what? I'm gonna take Canada in this, despite how good America has looked. Like it, I fully expect it to be a very close, tight game, but who knows, man?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that wraps up all of our talk of the Four Nations. We will be back on Tuesday next week, and then we'll be able to talk about all the weekend games, the Monday games, and we'll be able to kind of set the scene for where we are at going into the final championship game. If you want to follow along with the Four Nations with us, you can do so over on our Twitter, or you can come talk about it with us on any of our platforms. All of them are down in the description across all platforms. You can click the link. You can come over, talk hockey. You can just kind of hear what we have to say. Check out all stuff Four Nations, and if you want, you can give us your predictions. But Braden,
Yeah,
it is
I've
that
been.
time.
I was putting some stuff out there on the Blue Sky the other day. I was talking to people about it. There was quite a few people saying that they're like, no, after seeing what he's done, there was some people saying like, I take Crosby over Gretzky in a franchise, which
Wow.
if it's an NHL franchise, it's a little sketchy, but oh no, consolation prize Crosby.
Yeah,
Back to back Conn Smites.
but yeah, you heard it there first. If you do want to talk hockey, talk about Four Nations, you can do so over on our socials. But it is
What
that
do we
time.
got?
Final segment before we wrap it up here. We are back with another edition of Guess the Player. If this is your first time here, you aren't familiar with this game, pretty simple. All it is, I have one player. I know this player. Braden does not. It is an active NHL player on an NHL team currently. Braden has to try and figure out the player in as few questions as possible. He can only ask me yes or no questions until he narrows it down, and he's only got one shot to guess the player. Your best score up to this date so far is 10. So let's see if you can try and beat the 10 mark today. Whenever you're ready,
All
you can just
right.
start firing off questions. Again, yes or no only questions. And it is a active NHL player.
Right. I probably at some point will need to narrow down the team. That's what I did the last two times at the start. But for this one, I think I'm going to start first with, are they from North America?
They are from North America. Yes.
Okay. So one can probably assume they are Canadian or American. Uh, I want to guess the conference, but also if I get lucky guessing the division, that will that'll narrow it down a lot more with less questions. So you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say, do they play in the Central Division?
They do not play in the Central Division. No.
Damn.
I like the gumption there. I like trying to narrow it down early. I respect that. Unfortunately, they do not play in the Central Division.
Do they play in the Metro Division?
They do play in the Metro Division. So you know what? You didn't lose any ground there. You stayed even. Because you could have
Yeah.
just asked the conference and then a division. So you didn't lose anything there.
Yep.
You are 3 questions in.
So they are a North American player in the Metro. Are they a forward?
They are not a forward.
Okay, we're looking at defenseman or goalie. I'm assuming head coach isn't a part of this.
Yeah,
That'd
no,
be pretty
no,
funny. um,
not this go around. At least it is not. It is not a
yeah.
coach. It is a player.
So they're from NA in the Metro, and they are either a D man or
Or a goalie.
goalie. Do they make more than 4.9 million a season?
Ooh, 4.9 is a good number. Let me double check.
Oh, he's got a check. That means it's probably close to the number.
So you're asking, do they make more than 4.9?
Yeah.
They do not make more than 4.9.
So they make less than 4.9 mil. Interesting.
I was pretty sure that they were under, but I wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
And I was correct. So pat myself on the back for that one. You are 5 questions in. Can he narrow the player down?
It's so hard to think of that many players. Like, I think you just kind of got to narrow it down to the team. But how could I narrow it down without just naming all the teams?
Could go risky. Could just take a shot at one team and hope you hit. It's risky, but
How many teams are in the state of New York? Is that the Rangers, Islanders, and Devils?
just don't know. Only the Islanders and Rangers.
Devils aren't.
If we were just talking Eastern Conference teams, Buffalo would be in there,
I
but
was gonna say
it's a
Buffalo would be in
Metro
there.
team, so Buffalo
Yeah.
is not. So that would only that would only give you 2
Are you,
teams in that question.
you know what? Let's go with, is this team is the team that this player plays for, are they currently in a playoff spot?
They are currently in a playoff spot. That's a good one. That's a good question there to narrow it down a bit. Oh
So
fuck, does it ever? There's only 3 Metro teams at the moment.
yeah. So we got it.
It's a great question.
So we got it narrowed down to which 3 teams do we got there? Is that the Capitals, the Hurricanes? Is it
And the
just the
Devils.
Devils?
Yeah, those 3 teams.
They're not making a ton of money. They're from North America. They're probably a defenseman. They might be a goalie. Does this player play for the Washington Capitals?
They do play for the Washington Capitals.
All right. All
You are
right.
at 7.
7. So I'm
So
looking at
if you take one
their team.
more question, then you take a guess, you could get it in 9 and set a new record.
I got a little bit of a little awkward thing here, because I know it's either a defenseman or a goalie. I know they play for the Caps. Obviously, for goalie, it's not Charlie Lind. Oh no, Charlie Lindgren does make less. Sorry, so it could be Logan Thompson makes less than that this year, but his extension is 5.8. So I assume he is still in play because of his money this year. I'm looking at the ages. Is this player 26 years old or younger?
26 years old or younger. Yes. They sure are.
26 or younger.
That is
So it's
question number 8. Can he gonna take a guess here on 9?
so if I make one more hint and then a guess, I will tie myself, right?
You'll tie, yes.
So to win, I need to go for it on this one.
On this one, yeah.
which is
That
unfortunate
is what it comes down to.
because I said 26 or younger. So that eliminates both the goalies. They're 27 and 31. So I know it's either Jacob Chikrin, Rasmus Sandin, Martin Faravalli, or Alexander Alexiev, which I'm going to assume it's not him. Because that's probably not a name you would have been able to easily pick out. There's some good guys. It might be Chikrin. But I got to go for it. I got to try and set the new record. I am
Think
going to
about make sure you go through all your questions that you've asked as well. I will say that.
You will
Make sure
say that.
you're dead
Oh,
set on your player.
thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate I was about to completely lose because I was about to guess Rasmus Sandin, who is not from North America. I'm assuming. His name's Rasmus Sandin. I assume he's Swedish.
I don't think I've ever met anyone named Rasmus that's not from Sweden.
Yeah. I mean, so it's pretty
I didn't
much
even know
down to
that's who you were even gonna guess.
yeah. So I kind of think have I narrowed it down? Is it just Chikrin? Faravari is not from North America. Van Riemsdyk's too old. These guys make too much money. I think I'm gonna lock it in. Jacob Chikrin.
Jacob Chikrin, final answer.
Final answer.
You have done it. You have set your new record at 9. It was Jacob Chikrin. Well
All
done.
right.
I was going to
I
say,
got a
when you
couple.
had it narrowed down, you said Chikrin, Faravari, Sandin, Alexiev, and I was sitting there, I was like, yeah, only one of them's a North American
Yeah,
born
yeah.
player. Yeah, well, yeah. Once you narrowed it down to Washington defense, I was like, well, you've got it then, because John Carlson makes too much money. Matt Roy is and also over the age, so is Matt Roy, and then was like, well, that kind of narrows it right
I
there.
guess yeah. I probably didn't even need to ask the question about age really. I guess I still had the goalies in on it up
Yeah,
until that point.
that one made it. So you eliminated the goalies. Yeah, well, and it kept Trevor Van Riemsdyk in as well,
Right. So
and Dylan McElrath, but I don't even know if he's fucking
yeah,
playing.
yeah. The two bottom guys, I was like, I'm just going to assume that he didn't pick them because I
Yeah,
could find them on cap wages and guess them from there, but just uh just off the dome, I was not coming up with those names.
well done. You set a new record with 9 for Jacob Chikrin. I
Hell
thought that
yeah.
was going to be a little bit of a tough one, but you actually did quite well on that. But that
I got
will,
lucky a couple of times picking Washington out of the 3 teams or however many I had.
yeah, that was a good snipe there. The probably the winning question was, are they in a playoff spot? Because that narrowed it down to 3 of the 8 Metro teams.
Yeah.
That's always the hardest part, I think, is trying to narrow down the team. Once you
Yeah.
get the team, you can get to the player, I think, pretty quickly. But it's getting to the team that's always the hardest part of this, and you did well on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Um,
good.
but that does wrap up everything for this episode. Again, if you want to talk hockey, you know where all the socials are. You know where to find us. Braden, as always, give us your final thoughts heading into the big games this weekend. And Monday, I guess. Technically, Monday
And
still
on Monday.
counts. Long weekend.
Uh
Long weekend, yeah. There you go.
yeah, and yeah, 1 p.m. EST on Saturday, Finland, Sweden, 8 p.m. EST, US, Canada. Both games are going to be unreal. I imagine that building is going to be freaking absolutely rocking, especially for Canada, US. Like, given everything going on, the rivalry between the teams, the other stuff outside the game, the way the games have gone so far, they're captained by Toronto's captain on the US side, which Montreal dislikes even more. Like, everything's lining up. The storylines are going crazy. I
Looking for
cannot wait for
Crosby
that
to go
game.
27-0.
Yeah, the
But
streak.
the streak, I don't know what Taker ended up getting to. Was it 21? It's
21.
21-1. Yeah, fuck. Still
Crosby's
breaks my
better
heart to
than
this day.
Taker.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. We're gonna have to come up with, if Canada does lose. I hope they don't, but if they do, we're gonna have to come up with a Sidney Crosby Undertaker
Crosby
thing.
greater than Undertaker shirt. No
But
context.
that does wrap up everything for this episode. Once again, hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, we will see you guys out on the ice on Tuesday next week.